see what the Zoom meeting, if it changes over to.
Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Done redirecting to Facebook Live page.
No, streaming live on Facebook.
Okay, we want to be on DocTalk Live. Okay, there we are. So we are live.
Let me check you out. Hold on a second.
You can release your video order here. All right, well, welcome, Peter. I'm with Peter Hogenkamp. Always struggling with technology. Dr. Hogenkamp is an author.
Goodbye.
Huh. I just lost Christy. My
We're on our own now.
yeah, we're really flying solo now. So Dr. Hogenkamp is a physician. He is a writer. He is located in Vermont. He's a family practice doctor. He did not like geriatrics as an intern and a resident, and now he does a lot of geriatrics. So he's grown to love geriatrics. And he has his own DocTalk Live, which he calls Your Health Matters, which is on a local TV station in Vermont. And then it's also on YouTube. I think I actually did catch one of your podcasts. You were talking about diet and about fasting.
Right.
Was that a recent one?
Yeah, that was a couple of months ago. One of my best friends here is he's a physiatrist. And
That's what I am, by the way.
Really?
What's his name?
Mike Kanash.
I don't know the name, but okay.
He went to medical school. He trained in Seattle in their physiatry program.
Okay, that's a good one.
So he has done a tremendous amount of work with diet and exercise on his patients, and so he's basically just kind of revolutionized himself, with intermittent fasting. And the guy has grown into the healthiest guy in my practice, which is saying something because I live in Vermont where there's a lot of kind of high-end athletes. And he's just in phenomenal shape, strictly with intermittent fasting. It's
my mother was ahead of her time because back in the 80s and 90s, she used to go to these fasting places where she would fast for a long period of time. So fasting's been around a while. It was definitely considered very alternative back in the 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s. And so it's kind of coming into being more mainstream. And so that's sort of interesting right there. I'm curious as to your thoughts on that. You have some gray hair there, so.
Unfortunately, I come from a family where gray hair is your graduation present from high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So so I'm 55. But I've had my first gray hairs when I was in my 20s rather. And I like to say that intermittent fasting has been around for a real long time, since the cavemen. When they used to, eat, they would gorge themselves on some kind of kill that they would have, like a mastodon or a rabbit or something. And then they wouldn't eat for a long period of time. And the reason I mention that is because that's how our bodies evolved to eat. We evolved to eat large amounts of protein at kind of intervals, and then not eating in between. So when people ask me about, do I feel like intermittent fasting is safe, that kind of thing, I'm always like, well, this is a reason. The reason that we're here as a species is because intermittent fasting works, because otherwise we wouldn't be around.
Sure. So, but it's just such an interesting topic, and it's become, I don't know a lot about it. All I can tell you is my mom did it a lot.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the whole idea got a lot of boost from Hollywood. There was a number of Hollywood actors and actresses that were doing it just because of to increase their mental acuity. And Mike, my friend Mike Kanash, the physiatrist, he'll tell you that when he really needs to be sharp, he goes on one of these more prolonged fasts, and it really, really sharpens your mental acuity. You don't get dull or kind of foggy headed at all.
So what kind of shows have you done recently on your show, Your Health Matters? What topics have you been covering?
So my last show, I did a show with a great show with this young athletic trainer who's fantastic, by the name of Tyler White. Tyler's the athletic trainer that works with the local high school. He also worked with the local orthopods, and he was talking about exercise therapy for various common joint issues. For instance, knee pain, hip pain, back pain, elbow pain. And he did a phenomenal job of demonstrating the exercises, and it was really good. I live in Rutland, which is a small town. There's probably 30,000 people in the county, and people come up to me all the time and said, I love that show, and I really found Tyler was fantastic in demonstrating those exercises. That's the first time we've actually kind of used any kind of visual aid, a demonstration. Most of the time, it's either me on the show talking about something that I like to talk about, or I'm interviewing one of my friends who are a doctor, and we're talking about something that they're passionate about.
So our show is our concept is very similar. My goal is to be on Facebook Live, and people can then, and I haven't accomplished this yet. I'm still struggling with the technology, but I would love for people to join us live, enter in the conversation, ask you questions, ask me questions, type in questions, and have it much more interactive than it presently is. But it's a work in progress for sure.
Who you could benefit from is my buddy Jeff Galvin, who I went to medical school with. He's an ER doctor in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he does a Facebook Live program that I've been on several times now, and he has thousands of viewers. And one day we did a COVID show, and there were literally 100 or 200 questions streaming by on the side. So Jeff has really kind of gotten this down.
Awesome. Will you connect us?
I absolutely will.
Perfect.
I will absolutely connect, because he does a very similar thing, and Jeff's fantastic.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could, we could promote each other, I guess.
Right. Absolutely right.
So you're an author. How did you get to why are you a writer? Tell me about that.
Well, I wanted to be an author as opposed to going to medical school. And my father kind of put the kibosh on it. When I was 13, I wrote a story, my first novel. And I remember it was about I used to live on Alistair MacLean novels at the time. So I kind of wrote my own Alistair MacLean novel about a mad scientist that had obtained nuclear missiles, and he was going to destroy the world. And, of course, the hero was going to stop him. I got 100 pages into it, and I showed my dad, and he was really enthusiastic, but he was not enthusiastic about me doing this for a living. He says, "Why don't you do something else? And then maybe do the writing as a sideshow." And that's exactly what I've done.
So where'd you go to college?
I went to Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And then I went to Syracuse Upstate Medical Center for training, and then to Syracuse or St. Joseph's Hospital in Syracuse for residency training.
How'd you end up in Vermont?
So my uncle had a place just down the road from where we are, and we used to come up skiing all the time. And I remember vividly, and my parents will attest to this, that I would be kicking and screaming going home back to New York, upstate New York, on the way home from the weekend in Vermont. And I said, "I live here when I'm older." And my father said, "Well, why don't you do that, and we'll probably come live with you." And interestingly enough, 1 year after we moved here, I remember my father talking to my wife one night, and he was being super, super nice to her, as he always was. And then he finally kind of came out with it that they had bought a house down the road.
That's funny.
Yeah. So they moved here too. And my mom, this was 25 years ago. My mom is still alive. She's 92. She lives in this senior center here. My father's unfortunately long passed away.
I'm sorry.
But yeah. So he would have really enjoyed the books. He loved to write himself, and he would get a kick out of the fact that he told me to go to medical school instead of being a professional writer.
So did you teach yourself how to write? That's why I was wondering where you went to college. How did you learn how to write?
Yeah, so that's a good question. One I get all the time. And I will put a plug out for Mrs. Dawes, my 4th grade English teacher. She was tremendous. And she really thought I had some talent for writing and really encouraged me to do it. So I did a lot of writing early in my life. I went to a liberal arts school. Holy Cross is a liberal arts school. It's not a science school.
Okay.
So I had all kinds of history and English classes along with my pre-medical stuff.
So you got it in college. You had good
Yeah.
teachers in college to help you. And I don't know I hate writing, Peter. I hate it. It is something that I really struggle with. So I'm curious about what is the process?
So my process for writing is I wake up early in the morning to write, and I just sit there. I used to write. My first book was entirely in pencil and paper, and I had to pay one of my secretaries on the side to actually type it into a word processor. And I soon learned that I was going to have to learn to write on a keyboard, which I did. And now I write for a couple of hours and kind of do something else. I have a target goal. I need to write 1,500 words a day. I currently have signed a 2-book deal with Hachette, which is an absolutely outstanding, wonderful publisher, an imprint by the name of Bookissure. And I have the second book in the series that I signed with Hachette is due in a couple of weeks. So I've been really kind of under the gun recently, trying to finish up a 100,000 word manuscript.
So I downloaded The Intern, but I have not read it.
Right.
Why did that one come up? Is that your most famous book?
I wrote the Vatican Conspiracy, which comes out in 2 weeks. Is really my is my second book. My first one is sitting in a drawer somewhere, and that's where it belongs. But while I was kind of working on the Vatican Conspiracy, my literary agent said, geez, Peter, you're a doctor. Why don't you take advantage and write a book about medicine? She goes, I think that'll be a lot easier to sell than you writing, because the Vatican Conspiracy is, essentially a political thriller or international thriller, let's call it. And so she goes, you must have some stories that you're running around your head, write one of them up. And so I did that, and I posted it on Wattpad. Have you ever heard of Wattpad?
No.
It's a Canadian site. It's the largest storytelling site in the world with, many millions of readers. You post stories up on the site, and people read them, and they give you comments and stuff. So I started The Intern as a serialized book, one chapter at a time on Wattpad, and I would literally just sit down and write the chapters, and post them as I did, without any editing, without knowing where I was going. The next time I only had kind of a vague ideas to the story. And what happened was it did really, really well. And I got, people would recommend it to each other. And the next thing you know, I've got 50,000 readers.
Wow.
I mentioned this to my literary agent, and she goes, stop right now, take it off Wattpad and get this written up. So we did that.
That's funny.
It is.
So my daughter does something called fan fiction. Have you heard of that?
Oh, absolutely. And you should tell her about Wattpad if she doesn't. She probably knows.
How do you spell it? Wattpad?
Yes. Okay. What I found from my kids is that they know things far before I do. I always think I'm springing something on them, and they've known about it for months.
I'm sure she's probably used it for years. She loves to write.
Because fan fiction is their biggest genre. Basically, for fan fiction, for those people who don't know, it's taking a book that's already out there and kind of writing stories based on that book.
Right. Exactly. Well, this has been it's been fascinating. Tell us, before we go, I'm just curious about COVID and how that has affected your practice at all. Can you comment on that?
On the writing?
No, on the medicine side, on the physician side.
How
you mentioned the ER doctor, and you talked to COVID about him. Are you seeing a lot of COVID up there? Do you do a lot of testing? Do you have much to do in the way of COVID in terms of?
Okay. Yeah, I just misheard you for a second. So that's a great topic for me, because I'm an extremely proud Vermonter, and we have the lowest COVID rate in the country by far. As of we had a little bit of an outbreak this week, but as of last week, we only have 1 or 2 new cases a day in our entire state. Mm-hmm. And I attribute that to the fact that, we're a very rural state. If you look out my window, you're going to see farm fields and mountains, for miles. But the people here are also very, very progressive, and the social distancing and the mask wearing and all the other things that we've done to eliminate the virus just kind of become naturally to Vermonters. I'm a very proud Vermonter. I'm very proud of the job that we've done with the virus. So as a consequence of that, I have personally treated no COVID cases. I have 25 positive tests that all came from late March and early April. But we haven't seen a COVID case in our practice since middle of April.
So if I ever go to Vermont, where should I visit?
The entire state. It's such a beautiful place. My wife and I love to travel. And one of the things that we have not been able to do recently is travel. So because as a physician, I have to be very strict with the quarantine rules.
Uh-huh.
So if I travel to a county that has over 400 active cases per million, I've got to come back and quarantine for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Are
Oh,
you
yeah.
serious?
That's
You cannot really travel.
No. So the state of Vermont provides us with a travel map. It's called the Cross State Travel Map, and you can actually get it on Vermont.gov if you're interested. And it basically has all of New England, New York, New Jersey on it. And the counties it goes by county. Each county either glows yellow, or green, or yellow, or red. And anything but a green, you can't go unless you're going to quarantine on the way home. So as a consequence of that, my wife and I have done all of our traveling within the state of Vermont over the last 6 months. We've taken trips to places like half an hour away, and stayed at a bed and breakfast, gone out to dinner, gone hiking. It's been great. We've really enjoyed it.
Nice. And you're a skier, not a snowboarder, I take it.
I'm a skier.
Okay.
That's originally, as I was mentioning, we used to come up to my uncle's condo to ski here. I'm 55. 50 years ago we were coming. In fact, he still has the condo, interestingly enough.
Is this in Stowe? Where would this be?
So his condo is in Okemo. And I live just by Killington, which is the biggest ski resort in Vermont, and a wonderful, wonderful ski resort. I do most of my skiing at Pico, which is part of Killington. But it's closer to Rutland, where I live. And I love it because it's all locals.
So what would be fun? I wonder, would it be all right if we posted one of your Health Matters shows on DocTalk Live?
Oh, I would love that. Absolutely love it.
That would be great. So I hope Christy is watching this thing, but certainly Christy will put up, how people find you as an author. And I'd love to post a Your Health Matters show.
So my website, which my daughter designed for me, and it's interesting because a couple of years ago, I had a professional website done by a very, very talented website designer called Zuni.com. And my daughter owed me some money. So she says, Dad, I'll pay you back by redesigning a website for you. So I said, sure, what the heck. And it was time to re-up my account with Zuni. So I kind of let that one lapse. And she designed a beautiful website for me, Peter Hogenkamp Books. It's wonderful. And I love the fact that, it's kind of a family affair with her doing it. And that has got everything on there. It's got both my books. It'll have my Your Health Matters YouTube channel, as well as the podcast.
Yeah. So my goal is ultimately, DocTalk Live is not about Brad Goodman. Mm-hmm. It's really about trying to I guess link the listener, the viewer, the average person with health information and make it as interactive as possible. So I just sense that easy ability for you to just do that as well. So anything that helps, I guess, foster just people that are interested in health and medicine and in creating a forum to have that information and to interact with it.
That's exactly what I do with my Your Health Matters show. And one of the things I like about it is it's done at the local TV station. So I have a producer and stuff like that. It's wonderful. And what they're looking for is exactly what you're talking about, health information for the general public. I decided to do it because, after 25 years of practicing family medicine, I think I have a fairly good understanding of what people want to know. I was blessed with my mom's gift of gab. So I'd like to think that I'm reasonably good at explaining things to people. And these things are important. I mean,
Sure.
The more people understand about the diseases that are out there, the better they're going to deal with them.
Exactly. I wonder if you maybe also pass along the TV, maybe they can link me to a TV station here, a local TV here. They probably have sister TV stations.
Yeah, so I'll talk to my producer, who's a wonderful guy, Chris McCormick, just a wonderful guy. And you're in Birmingham, Alabama, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll email him after we're done here.
perfect.
And because it's a wonderful venue for someone like you who wants to get health information out there. These TV stations exist in every city.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people watch TV as much anymore, but TV or a local, let's say, social media, real media. I'm basically creating media,
You
if
are.
you will, on social media, but I don't have a business behind me
Right.
to extrapolate that.
Right.
And Jeff Galvin, you'll have to get me the ER doc's
I'll
name.
email you with Chris McCorn. I'll send a group email out with the bunch of us, and I'll give you by way of introduction, and give you their emails. Jeff, wonderful guy, does a lot of this stuff. He's great at it. He was the president of my wife's medical school class. So my wife and I went to this same medical school. She was a year behind me, and Jeff and she were in the same class, and Jeff was the president. We always knew he was going places. Just a kind of a wonderful, charismatic guy.
What kind of physician is your wife?
My wife's a family doctor.
Oh, okay, so are you in practice together?
We are.
Oh, nice, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, this has been fun. I love the idea of putting one of your shows up on the DocTalk Live thing. I'd love to do that. So hopefully Christy can make that happen.
Go, Christy.
All right, Peter. It was great talking to you. And let's do it again.
All right, Brad. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.